Hi everybody. I wanted to share some thoughts about Rosh Chodesh and how it relates to this week's Parsha, Tazria Metzora. Last Shabbos was Shabbos Mevorachim, meaning this week we had the blessing to celebrate the beginning of the new month of Iyar. And while attention to the heads of months has faded in recent years, historically speaking, each Rosh Chodesh was an opportunity to focus on one's spiritual state. Many pious Jews fasted before each month began, treating each Rosh Chodesh like a miniature Rosh Hashanah, in which we undertake the spiritual labor of self-accounting, cheshbon hanefesh, a spiritual activity perhaps made more relatable during the tax season, in which we are in the midst. If only we pored over our own behaviors and choices as rigorously as we tracked our errant receipts. In the Torah, each special day in the sacred calendar had its own designated additional Mussaf offering, which we today commemorate as the Mussaf service. Now, if you've paid attention in shul, you've seen that each Mussaf Amida details the offering, changing as the occasion shifts. The Mussaf offering for Rosh Chodesh is unique. Each time we had the privilege of offering additional gifts to God, it was normally an extra opportunity to celebrate and rejoice on our holy day. However, on Rosh Chodesh, the Mussaf offering included a chatat offering. Chatat offering, of course, is the sacrifice that facilitated cleansing from the suboptimal experiences of life. In other words, to atone for sin. Normally, the chatat was for our sakes, but on Rosh Chodesh, we encounter a unique description of what the sacrifice entails. The Torah reads, "One goat for the chatat lashem, offered on the burnt offering with its libation." That's Numbers 28:15. That's in the Mussaf, the maftir that we read for Rosh Chodesh. So prepositions in the Torah are famously fungible. The chatat on Rosh Chodesh is designated as being la Shem, la God. La in Hebrew can be spatial or temporal, meaning before in both senses. And, as in archaic usage, it can mean for, both meaning before, but also this sacrifice for sins could very well be for God. What a daring idea, that even God needs to gain forgiveness. So why is it specifically on Rosh Chodesh that God needs to bring a forgiveness offering? As with all insights under the sun, we know that it's found in the Talmud. And so in the Talmud, Chulin 60b, Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi says that on the fourth day of creation, both of the lights in the sky, the sun and the moon, were of equal magnitude. The moon noted that there needed to be a distinction, and God lessened the moon. The moon then protested, asking why she was punished for trying to help. God recognized what had occurred and took on the responsibility of the chatat offering, to atone for what had been done to the moon. Now, as we know, Jewish months are lunar, so each Rosh Chodesh is a day for the moon. And it is specifically on the day that celebrates the moon that God took on to bring a sacrifice of atonement, to recognize the hurt that had been done. All real relationships are, in truth, laboratories of responsibility. We have the mechanism of atonement and forgiveness that structures the High Holy Days. But God is not merely the recipient of our regret and hope. God models this process as well, as God is the substance of what that vulnerable, authentic relation looks like. Perhaps in this light, we can better understand a component of this week's Parsha, which can so easily baffle or embarrass a modern Jew. When a mother gives birth, she is rendered tame, impure, either for about a month if she had a boy, or 2 months if she had a girl. This is commonly understood in a judgmental sense, in which being tame, impure, is read moralistically. Now, it's worth noting that many biblical scholars have said, actually, that tuma in the Torah context is not a moral designation. And I think here, actually, we really get that point. However, even as God can be a model for atonement, so we must move away from a purist, simplistic reading. There is something powerful embodied here, the birthing of new life, especially in the ancient world, but even today, is contact with the line between life and death, with a kind of body that both brings new potential into the world, but also entails great risk, pain, and harm, even possible loss of life. Every birth, every new beginning is thus a complex event. We see the preventative nature of tuma in that it keeps one from the sacred. If you are tame, you're not allowed to come to the mikdash, come to the mishkan. You need to keep your distance. But not only did it regulate the sacred, it also enforced personal time and space. So you're kept from going to the temple, you're kept from, let's say, participating in that aspect of public life. But maybe in a way, tuma is trying to create a bubble, a buffer, so that you have time and space that you need. I imagine it would be especially helpful, maybe even healing, for a mother who had just gone through the trauma of birth to have a legally protected bubble in which she can recover physically, sexually, even spiritually. Like the shifting state of the moon, nothing, no one is purely right or wrong, good or bad. God, our paragon of righteousness and justice, also takes responsibility after doing harm. Seeming impurity is also a time of protection and healing separation. Like the shifting face of the moon, the state of this sublunar world is complex. Shabbat Shalom.